Hello and welcome. I am continuing my tour of financial modeling basics through the medium of the old ModelOff Financial Modeling World Championships questions. And today's case study is about tax and various fun things with tax. One thing is about tax rates changing over time, including in some funky cases changing mid-month. And the second thing is about timing of tax payments and being able to carry over tax losses, all the fun with that. So let's get into the details. So you work for a company that wants to forecast its tax obligations and payments over the coming 10 years. They've worked out their forecast taxable profit. So over here in the spreadsheet, this is going to be taxable profit for each period over the next 10 years. And as you might expect, there's a mix of lots of losses and profits in there, just to make it complicated enough. The company has no trading history in this country. No tax payments are due from before. Fine. Tax payments commence from the 2016 calendar year based on the taxable profit from the previous calendar year and the company tax rates and tax rules set out below. So our model starts from the start of 2015, runs to the end of 2025. And then the government has announced that company tax rate will change frequently over the next 10 years as follows. I do remember one thing about this question which caused me to trip up, which is you've got to do a monthly forecast and tax rates change. So I said, okay, it doesn't always happen at the end of a month. So sometimes you'll have two tax rates in a month. So I did like a lookup on this table to find the row of the start of the month. And then I checked whether the next row after that was in the same month or in a different month. And then had my two different tax rates. But in a very, I guess just to catch you out way, there's actually 1 month in which the tax rate changes twice. So we've got one tax rate until the 2nd of February, then from the 3rd of February to the 22nd of February we've got another, and then from the 23rd of February on we've got another. Not sure how realistic it is that the government would announce 7 years in advance a schedule of tax changes and still have tax rates change twice in a month, but obviously it was designed to challenge you to make your model a little more flexible. Then I had to go back and rebuild it all. For months where more than one tax rate is applicable, you should determine an average rate to apply weighted by the number of days which the relevant tax rate applies to that month. Tax charge in each period is calculated by multiplying the applicable tax rate times the taxable profit given in the inputs. Oops, my battery is running low. Let's grab my power cable. Okie doke. Yes, it's plugged in now. Come on. Send the message away. Thank you. All right, so we need to be quite careful with terminology. The tax charge is your tax rate times your taxable profit. Tax payable is the tax charge adjusted for losses based on a tax loss pool. So if a tax charge in a month is positive and there are no losses available in the pool, then the tax payable is equal to the tax charge. Fine. So in other words, if you have no losses to offset it with and you owe tax, then that tax becomes payable. If the tax charge in a month is positive and there are losses available in the pool, the tax payable in the month is the tax charge reduced by the lesser of the amount of the charge and the balance of the tax pool. So in other words, you can reduce it as much as to zero if there's enough in the tax loss pool to do that. Any losses used in this way have to be removed from the tax loss pool, and if the tax charge in a month is negative, it should be added to the tax loss pool, and the tax payable in that month is zero. If you're like me, that sounds a little complicated when it's written like this, but it'll make a lot more sense when we start modeling it. Anyway, assume that the balance in the tax loss pool at the start of the model timeline is zero. Makes sense. Once you've calculated the tax payable in each month, you annualize it to calculate the company's tax liability for a year. Now, I wouldn't actually call this annualizing myself. I would call it adding it up over the year. I think of annualizing as like scaling up by a factor, like multiply a monthly amount by 12 to annualize it. But anyway, you sum it up over the year to get the tax liability for the year, and it's the calendar year, and then the annual tax liability is paid in the next calendar year, 60% in April, 25% in August, 15% in December. And then for the last few questions, we've got an extra twist. They're considering a change to tax legislation, which is that if a tax loss is not used within 2 years, it expires and has to be removed from the tax loss pool. So if a loss is created in April 2015 and has not been used by the end of April 2017, it expires at the end of April 2017. Assume that losses are used and expired in order of age, oldest first. We've been asked to determine what the impact of this would be on the company's tax payments. Okie dokie. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is just work out a tax rate for each month based on all this madness. And like I said, the way I thought about that before was, figure out the first tax rate, second tax rate. But now that I know that there's, potentially more than two in a month, the easier way is just going to be to work out for each rate and each period, how many days does that rate apply to that period. So I'm just going to hide all of that so I can scroll around. And to do this, I'm going to just replace the onward date with just the last date of my model. And I guess just for the sake of caution, let's make it 30 years later. So then how many days are in between the 1st and 31st of January 2015 and between the 1st of January and the 31st of March 2015? A handy formula for that is to say it is the max of the smaller of the end dates, so that end date and this end date, minus the larger of the start dates, that minus that plus 1. So in other words, if you go from day 1 to day 10, that's 10 days inclusive. So 10 minus 1 will give you 9. You need the plus 1 to offset it. Max of that and 0 is a useful formula to have in your quiver for this kind of situation. So you can see here you've got all of January falls in rate 1, all of February falls in rate 1, all of March falls in rate 1, all of April falls in rate 2, all of May falls in rate 2, June, July, August, so on through to the next year. And then the next May, 17 days fall in rate 1, 14 days fall in rate 2, and then here we've got a split, here we've got, but anyway, you get the idea. And whenever we get to that weirdo February, where is it? Sorry, where is the one with two? Yes, here it is. So you can see in this February, you've got 2 days of rate 9, 20 days of rate 10, 6 days of rate 11. So then the applied rate is just going to be, oops, we're going to take the sum product of this, oops, lock, with the rates, lock, divided by the sum. So what are we saying? Sum product, it just means you get 31 days at 15%, 0 days at 14%, 0 days at 17%, blah, blah, blah. But you multiply the number of days by the rate, and then you divide it by the total number of days in the month. And then we're going to carry that across, and we're going to take our formatting. So, sorry, scroll up so we can see better. Okay. So there we go. That's our applied rate. Oh, sorry, I guess we're supposed to have workings on a different sheet. Oh, well. Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. It's the kind of thing that I would fix if this were, a real client model or something, but I'm going to allow myself a little leeway. Anyway, okay, so tax charge. I'll start the rest over here. Again, this is a very Dan Mayo model. He has an enormous screen, which I do not. So I'm just going to hide them. I'm not going to delete any columns because right now my assumptions for January are in column M and my model for January is in column M, and there's value in keeping that consistency. I'm just going to hide some things to make it a little smaller, and this can probably afford to shrink a chunk. Move that out of the way. And let's get modeling. Okay, so tax charge, well, I guess it'd be better to say profits. Ooh, yuck. Applied rate, and then the tax charge, just to have everything together in one place. So that's the profits. This is the applied rate. Nope, that's not the applied rate because I got to go all the way back to the start. Try that again. And we'll make that percent 2 decimal places. So then the tax charge is just this times this. Sorry, gotta hide my extra columns again so that I can Control-Shift right. Okay, so now let's work out my tax loss pool and my tax payable. So tax loss pool, we're going to have opening, additions, removals, expirations. I'm just going to put in a placeholder for it right now. I'm not actually going to work it out yet. And closing. So we know that it starts off with a balance of 0. Let's format that different color. And then, oops. Okay, so now my additions are going to be minus the min of this and 0. So in other words, whenever I make a loss, that's going to add a tax loss to the pool, and we move along. And then here we'll have tax payable. We'll work it out by reference to the tax loss pool. So then the question is, when we make a profit, we want to use something up, and that removal is going to be. So I guess first thing to notice is this is only ever positive or negative in a period. So we'll never have an addition and be considering a removal. So we'll only be concerned about the opening balance. So let's just say here, for example, we've got, sorry, wait, what is? Oh, whoops. You got to be careful with hiding columns. So, sorry, just to explain how I realized something was wrong there, I was saying, why is this not carrying over here? And the answer is because this is not pointing to this cell, because this is pointing to what looks like the next cell, but actually isn't. So, whoops, need to be a little more careful than that. And now that's going to give me all kinds of errors, but that's fine. I just copy this over, and now it's behaving. So here, and then it goes up, and it goes up, and then yes, okay. Whoops, okay, so then I guess let's just make these small instead of hiding them. All right, so now my removals are going to be minus minimum of this and this. And I guess I'm going to say if this is greater than 0, then it's going to be that, otherwise it's going to be 0. I could probably wrap it in some other maxes and mins and weird stuff, but you get the idea. Okay, so here we're using up some of it. Let's see, I want to find a place where the tax loss pool empties out, just so I can see that logic working. Never happens, really? That seems odd. Oh, yeah, here we are. Tax loss pool empties out, even though we have more up there. Perfect. Okay, so then tax payable. And I've just left expirations as a gap here because we can answer the earlier questions without dealing with that. So it's this plus this plus this. So you can see for the first while, nothing happens because our cumulative profit remains negative for quite a while. You can see it in the sum down here. So we're still $500,000 in the hole, more. So the first time we pay tax is going to be quite a while into the model. Oh, quite a while. Wow. Not going to pay tax for a long time. Okay, there we go. That's where the tax loss pool briefly runs out. Okay. And then, obviously, by the looks of it, we'll start making profit a little more consistently in the later years so that we actually, maybe just in the one last year, so that we actually have to start paying taxes. Okay. So that's that. I guess we can now answer some questions, and then once I'm kind of comfortable that everything is working, we can then do the expiration piece. So we've got questions from 32 to, oops, not that many, 32 to 41. So sequence, I guess that's 10 questions starting at 32. So we'll do link and hardcode. I'll do the hardcode later, and the option. Okay. So first question. What is the tax rate that will be applied in February 2022? This was the one little bit of niceness to offset the cruelty of having multiple rate changes in a month. Is the very first question asked you what happens to the rate in that month. So, you know, it's not hard to spot if you've gone off the mark. So 14.29, and that is D. What is the total tax charge for the whole period? One 171713. No, we do want decimal places, sorry. 0.32. 13.32, so that's D again. Okay. What is the balance in the tax loss pool at the end of December 2022? December 2022. Back this way a little. Here. 133. Sorry, again, we want the decimal places. 13349.44. 499. Yes, so that's A. 35. What is the forecast total tax payable up to and including the 31st of October? It's a little random, but okay. Not including the last two. 134,451.28. That's B. Good. Forecast tax payment made. Oh yeah, sorry, I haven't done the payments. Whoops. So let's go here. Tax payment. So we got in month 4, 60%, in month 8, 25%, in month 12, 15%. So first thing I'm going to do is just add in a year here so that I can deal with that. So I'm going to say, first thing I want to do is just work out, am I in a payment month and the percentage. So let PMT percentage be, this is going to be some ifs, add up these percentages where this month. You could also do a lookup from here to here with a, an if error, or with an X lookup with an optional argument for what to do if there's nothing or whatever. It all kind of works the same, where that is the month of the current period, which is, where are we? M7. And just for now, give me payment percent. So that is 60% there and 25% there. Okay, good. So that's working. Then I'm going to say, oops, if payment percent is greater than 0, so in other words, if I'm in a payment month, then I'm going to say payment percent times the total tax payable from the previous year, which I'm going to use as sum ifs, sum all the tax payable, where the year is current year minus 1. And I think that's it. Oh, yeah, sorry. Otherwise, 0. So we should have no payment in the first year because we pay the year after we incur. So then in the second year, oh yeah, sorry, we don't actually pay any tax for a long time. Whew. All right. So here we incur for the first time, so then the next April will be the first time we actually pay. So I'll go up to March. My max and min are both 0, so I haven't paid anything up to there. And then we make a small payment in 2025. Wow, you really don't pay tax for a long time. Okay, so what's the question? Forecast tax payment made in August 2025. August 2025, tax payment 1986.00, which is A. Okay, what is the forecast total tax paid up to and including? Which is just that one tax bill. So 7943.99, which is B. 38. The tax payments in the subsequent year are instead made as follows. Okay. What is the forecast tax paid between April and August of 2025? Fine. It's an interesting one. You don't really need to you don't really need to kind of remodel to answer this question at all, because there's only, your tax payable only becomes a thing for the first time in June 2024. So you're only going to pay tax in 1 year, which is 2025. and you're only going to pay 10% of that between April and August. So the sort of speedy way to do this would just be to say that times 10%, which I think is the right answer, but I will, just for the sake of it, I will model it out fully. So 794.4. Tax payments. Oh, sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah, so you're also picking up. I was looking at April to August in 25, but it's April from way back to August in 25. So you're picking up the 70% and the 10%. So that should be times 80%. So 6355.19, which is C. But just for the sake of it, let's build a model that has some flexibility here. So the way I would do that is month base, month alt, and then paid base and percent paid alt. So we're going to change the months to be 3, 8, and 11. 3, 8, and 11. And we want to change the percentages paid to be 70, 10, and 20. 70, 10, and 20. And then we just need one more assumption here, oops, which can go here. Alternate timing, question mark. And we can just say false. And then here, oops, delete that. We can say if this is true, then base. Sorry, if this is true, then alternative, otherwise base. And here, same thing. Oops, we can say if this is true, then we want alternative, otherwise base. And then I just switch that to true. And then if I sum up from whatever the heck it asked, April of 18, we jump along, sorry, to here, April of 18 is our tax payment up to August of 25, and we get the same number. So I'm not going to data table it, I don't want to make this too time intensive, but activate alternate timing scenario. And I guess now I'll have to do hard code. And then turn that, oops, sorry, turn that back off. Okay, so now 39, 40, 41, we need to deal with expirations. So what's the logic here? The logic is that we want to consider of what we accumulated more than 2 years ago, what has not been used up either through a removal or through a prior expiration. So what are we going to do for that? I guess I'm going to add in something here, which is period. I'll call it expiration period. And for that, I'm going to say e-date. No, let's go EO month. Starting from here, and the number of months is going to be minus this times 12. So you're going to lock that cell in and carry that across. So in other words, at the end of 2015, I'll be considering for removal anything that accumulated by January 2013. So then how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to say, what is the total value of things that had accumulated by then? So that is going to be SUMIFS additions, lock, where period end lock is less than or equal to the expiration period. So that's everything that is accumulated up to then. Let me just put this formula down out of the way so I don't screw around with everything. So let's just come along to here, for example. So 2 years in, we should see it happen for the first time. Yes, January 2017. So 50,000 accumulated in the first month. Oops, nothing more accumulated in the second month. more accumulated in the third month, and so on. And then from that, we want to subtract everything that has been used up, and that can be used up through a removal or an expiration. So again, I'm going to need to refer to older cells here, so I'm just going to do my usual thing of format empty cells that are going to be referred to. So it's that sum if minus, I mean, I guess I could sum if it as well, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do sum of this, where I lock in the L. So this, in other words, is going to expand. So it's going to be the sum of all the removals and expirations up to the previous period. And I guess actually I also want to subtract, or sorry, not subtract, because they have the opposite sign, so add. I also want to add the removals in the current period. So let's come out here, and then I'm going to need to, oops, oh yeah, so I already need to adjust this to say it can't go negative. So this is a positive, so I need the max of this and 0. So let's see, first of all, it should be 0 up until something accumulates. Then the 50,000, obviously we've used that up within 2 years. So let's just carry on further over. At some point, yes, okay. So at this point, let's take this as an example. So no previous expirations. What have we removed? We've removed 627K. And then if I look up to the 31st of October 16, have I added in more than that? 31st of October 16, I've added in 688. And what did I say? I've only removed 627. Yes, so that's the first place where I would expect something to expire. Okay, so I think I have the formula now. I just need to put a minus sign on it, so it'll slot in here. So again, let's just look at a sense check here. Here we have a little bit of expiration. So in other words, there are very heavy losses in the early years. We don't use all those up. So let's just grab one more as a sense check. So let's say here, for example, what have we added? Sorry, what have we used up to this point? Well, we've used up 771 that we've actually been able to use, and then we've used up another bit through expiration. So in total, we've used up 847K. So what have we added up to the 31st of January 17? So Alt-Tab across. Up to January 17, we've added 758K. That's not good. Sorry, January 17, that didn't sound right. Sorry, this is June 17, January 17. Yeah, no. Wait, sorry, there are no expirations there. Why was I looking at this one? Getting confused. Okay, let's look further ahead. Oh, sorry, I must have gone too far back. Okay, fine. Confusing myself. This is not totally straightforward. But anyway, okay, so here, August 2019, we have 17 million to remove. So we've used up 936K. What have we added up to 2 years before, which is August 17? We've added 954K. So back to August of, what the heck did I say? August of 18. Oh my god, I'm confusing myself again. Where the heck was I? So lost here. All right, I'm going to try this one more time, and then I'm just going to give up and see if my answers to the questions are right, which is another perfectly reasonable way to check. Okay, so we're looking at November 18. We've used up 742K. What have we added up to November 16? So sorry, give me that number again. 742K, yes. So up to November 16, we've added 749K. So in November 18, we should be dropping a little bit, and we are. So that seems like it's working okay. So now let's answer the questions and see if we get them right. Oh, sorry, and I guess I should have an assumption here for expirations, expiration active, which will be true for right now, and then we'll just make this whole formula be if that, and this otherwise 0, so that I can recover my old answers later. And activate expirations. Okay, so finally, we have expirations active, and we are not in the alternate timing, so we're ready to answer the questions. What's the question? Under the new system, at the end of which month is the first loss expiry forecast to occur? So we could just go scrolling, or we could XLOOKUP true in this not equal to 0, returning from the month, and format as date, 31st of October 18, which is C. Under the new system with loss expiry, what amount of tax losses are forecast to be expired in total? Put a minus sign because it's asking for a positive number answer. 97706.54. That's C. Good. And finally, considering tax loss expiry, total tax paid forecast up until 2025. Fine. So sum of tax payments 105,650.53. Hooray! Check that. And that is, sorry, D. Sorry, these are not that. These are here. Okay. That's all I got for today. I'll be back on Friday with the last one, which is figuring out the costs or cost savings of different phone plans. So that's a little bit more real world. But that's what I got for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.